Committee meeting to order. It's a short agenda this evening. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. We have several for finance. 22-224 budget amendments, 22-225 accepting amounts and rates of the Budget Commission, 22-226 increase PO 2022-805 Ohio Edison Service, 22-227 increase PO 2022-583 Air Gas MCRC, 22-228 Multi-Use Path Plan ARP Fund Project, 22-229 expenditure for Lampion Companies LLC, the airport, 22-230 Grant Application Senior Services Network Grant MCRC, 22-223 General Motors Electric Vehicle Charging Stations. And the public properties has two items, 22-231 Pickleball Court Discussion and 22-232 Skate Park Survey and Design Discussion. Next, we have 22-224 budget amendments. We have 22-34 year-end negatives. Keith?
This is just moving money around to cover negatives.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 22-35 a donation.
They received a donation, and we need to appropriate it for them to be able to spend it.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 22-225 accepting amounts and rates of the Budget Commission. Keith?
Thank you. And I forgot to put it on here, but the emergency clause is requested, which Kathy caught and added for me. This is due back to the auditor by November 1st. The emergency clause is necessary because, we turned this in the day we got it, but we're tight on the time. This is to accept the rates as the Budget Commission established them. It's something we do every year with the budget process.
Any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 22-226 increased expenditure for Ohio Edison Company Service Department. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. We started the year with a $15,000 PO. We're asking to increase this by $10,000 to get us through the end of the year. This expenditure will cover pole replacement and repair. Sometimes we know the culprit. Sometimes it's folks that go off the road and PD will end up getting a report. We'll be able to back bill for that, but this is so we can get through the end of the year. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll have to abstain from this since I believe our firm represents Ohio Edison in some way.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Aye. 22-226 increased expenditure, 22-227 increased expenditure for Air Gas MCRC. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is to increase our purchase order for CO2 at the Recreation Center. Like fuel costs, costs for CO2 have went up and continue to go up. They went up 8% last month and 7% the month prior. So we're hoping that this increase will get us through the end of the year.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rose?
what do we use CO2 for?
We use it in the pool to control the pH.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 22-228, the RFPs for a multi-use path plan. Mr. Dutton?
Thank you. This is a proposal to allocate $50,000 of ARPA funds and authorize the creation of an RFP for a qualified consultant to conduct a multi-use path plan. The creation of this plan was assessed in the recently adopted comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan indicated that though we have trails and paths that are not necessarily connecting to each other, destinations and all areas of the city. The comprehensive plan also included an online survey, which 72% of the respondents said they would like to see more or improved bike lanes or walking trails. And really the meat of the comprehensive plan is the plan framework, which includes strategies, and related to this, strategy 3.11 states prepare and adopt an active transportation plan, and the time frame for the completion of that was short term, which is obviously the nearest term for the projects. It's also supported by Medina County, which we've had discussions with. They have a lot of trails just outside the city, and they're interested in connecting them to Medina, creating kind of a hub for all the bike paths, multi-use paths. We've had conversations with the business community, particularly big industrial users on the west end, about extending some paths out to them. And not surprisingly, Bike Medina County is also in support of such a plan, and if we move forward, those parties will all be included in the planning process. The plan will basically create a number of elements beneficial for planning. It includes a detailed evaluation of our current plan framework, has a plan for how to develop and connect our paths. It indicates funding sources, and it has best practices. So those are kind of the common elements of this type of plan. Though grant dollars are available for multi-use paths, they're primarily directed towards the actual construction and design of the paths, not the planning part. So in order to obtain funding, the first step here is the creation of the multi-use plan. Thanks.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Mr. I'm not fast enough. That's, is this going to be something that, how do I want to say, adds to the comprehensive plan? Because I'm just curious, the $50,000 certainly seems like a lot of money compared to what we paid for the comprehensive plan for the whole city.
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan hits a higher level on a lot of different parts of the city, transportation, housing, economic development. This really drills down to create a usable plan where we can plug it into a grant application saying this is exactly what this grant says to do, or this plan says to do, is connect this path here. Here's how much it's going to cost. Here's the priority. And it really gives us a much bigger leg up when we're looking for that kind of funding. Without that, we're kind of just looking at a higher level, saying we think this is where it should go. This is knowing where it should go.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 22-229 expenditure for Lampion Companies LLC for the airport. Is this Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. President. We became aware recently that there's a pretty extensive amount of work to be done at the airport regarding lights. There's all kinds of lights. The first priority would be our runway edge lights. We had Lampion Companies prepare a proposal for us for not only that, but for other work that our consultant, Delta Airport, recommended. The challenge with this is a lot of these repairs, we don't know the extent of it until we get there. Some of them might not just be a bulb that needs to be replaced. Some of them might be more extensive repairs. So we're recommending $25,000 to start this work and see how far that gets us. Maybe it'll address it all. We don't know until we get into it. But these are things that are necessary. The FAA will be doing a fly-in, I think that's what it's called, fly-by or whatever, in the next several weeks. And we do need to have the edge lights working prior to that.
And this is coming from the airport fund?
Correct. Yep.
I'm not sure where this is coming from.
It says 574.
570.
It is, but, I mean, we have to transfer money over there to keep that afloat every once in a while, so.
Well, I don't, that's my question. I don't know if there was enough money in there.
There is, Lori is the one that gave me that account number.
Yeah, because we don't want to take it from your 108, because this isn't a street thing, but maybe we can kind of count it as that, but. All right, well, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 22-230 is a grant application for Senior Services Network grant for the MCRC. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. We were made aware of a grant opportunity through the Medina County Senior Services Network. So we'd like to apply for roughly $1,200 to provide lunches to those seniors that participate in our Lunch and Learn series. So we're asking for authorization to apply and the mayor to complete any necessary paperwork for implementing the grant. The emergency clause is requested because the application deadline is October 28th. Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And finally, 22-233, a General Motors electric vehicle charging stations. Patrick?
Thank you. We were contacted by a local dealership, Serpentini Chevrolet, about a program General Motors is having that allows each dealership to receive as many as 10, will be 5 dual-port electric vehicle chargers, which is 10 chargers total. I met with them and found out some details about the program and wanted to bring it back to you to see if there's interest. If there is interest, we would have to identify locations. We've thought about perhaps the courthouse parking deck, or maybe at the rec center. Of course, that's school's property, so we'd have to get buy-in from the schools. But basically, at this point, just want to see if there's interest, based on what I can tell you about it. The program does provide the actual charger itself, but we would be responsible for the costs of, like the pedestal and some of the accessories. Totals $4,500 per dual-port charger. In addition to that, we would be responsible for any make-ready costs, which is the cost to provide electricity there. We might have to have a new service line put in because it is pretty significant amounts of electricity they need. Any paving or pavement striping, anything to make the site ready would be our cost. They're going to get as many as 10, as I mentioned. I don't know if that would be all for us. They talked about reaching out to the county and the townships and hospitals, that kind of thing. But basically wanted to gauge our interests in it. If we do have interest, we can continue to pursue it. We develop a scope and an agreement, and then we'd have to come back to you to bless it. The one thing I wanted to mention, I spoke to Greg about this, these chargers will have the Serpentini logo on them. I didn't know if that was acceptable or not. I think Greg says it's comfortable with it as long as it's in the ordinance.
2 questions for you. How much are each of these chargers if we were to go out and purchase them?
You know, I went and tried to find this specific charger, and I couldn't get a price for it, but I know the chargers we're looking at are anywhere from 20 to 25,000 each.
And the second question is, where do we stand on our current charging stations that were supposed to go in this?
Kind of thought you might ask that. I did reach out to NOACA last week, and they have not responded yet. That's for their side. That's the fast charging station. On our side, we can start putting ours together. We kind of slowed our activity on that, waiting to find out what NOACA was going to do because we wanted to have the same vendor. Because they're so slow, I think we'll probably just move forward with ours. We can, I'm sure, have ours in place within the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I think we should start moving on something just so we have some availability somewhere in the city for charging. I think, as you know, most of the mandates are from the various states and the federal government or just from the car companies themselves are changing everything by 2030, 35 to all electric. So there'll be no more, I think, no more gas-powered vehicles.
Yeah, that was the comment made by the fellow at Serpentini that they think internally within the next 10 years, 2/3 to 3/4 of the vehicles they sell will be electric.
So we have to start planning ahead for that, for sure. But yeah, I mean, what do people think?
Chairman?
Paul?
I have a couple of questions. Are these fast chargers or?
No, these would be the level 2 chargers.
Okay, so people are going to be planning to be there for a while. Secondly, when they put their charge card in, they're charged whatever. A certain amount of that will go for the electricity. Do we, the city, get anything for supplying it, paying for the installation, anything like that? Can we?
Yeah, similar to the chargers we'll have here, we have control over the cost, the rate that we charge. So that
Okay.
would be a decision we would make. Do we want to just pay for the electricity or add something in to cover those costs? That would be our decision.
Okay, and then with the way the electricity charges are changing, monthly, would we always be in arrears, or would we get a forward advance that on your next bill you're going to be paying X so we can charge appropriately?
That I don't know. I don't know how Ohio Edison would notify. I guess we can look into it, but I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Just long-term planning, for example, with the bounce check fee, our fee in our code is set up as whatever the bank charges plus. And I think we're gonna have to do the same thing here, because otherwise there's no way we're gonna have time to get it back to council every time the electric company changes their rate.
No.
For what you pointed out, that, yeah, okay, if they change their rate, we can't come back to council, wait till you have a meeting, wait till it takes effect. So we're gonna wanna set that rate as, and if you just wanna break even, okay, whatever the rate is, but if you wanna make a little bit, it's whatever the rate is plus a penny a kilo, you know, however you wanna do that, but you're gonna wanna make it a function of that, so that we don't have to come back each time.
Right. All I was, I'm glad you said that, because all I was looking is make sure that we're not paying more than what we're getting for the electricity. Okay, thank you.
Bill?
So if you assume that they might be worth $25,000 apiece, correct? And so what's the cost to get it site ready? What would that cost be?
You know, that really depends on the site. We planned for it in the parking deck, so our costs are pretty minimal for that, but that's because it's set up for that. If we were to go to the old parking deck, it could be kind of expensive. We're going to have to provide more power, which first of all is a cost to Ohio Edison, but then we have to get the power to wherever these chargers may be located, which involves conduit. I don't think we'd want to go underground with that and tear up the parking deck, but there would be costs involved with that. So I don't know if I can give you a one-size-fits-all number, but it's not going to be too inexpensive.
Okay, so not cheap is a good starting place. You know, but you presume, as you said, that this is where the world's going. You know, we're going to need them anyway. So every one that we would get, even if we only got 2 or 3, would be a savings of the cost of the charger itself. So it seems to me it would be a pretty favorable program, because the more we have, you know, we'll be off to a better start as the cars multiply. And Greg, would you look at then, when you said it's okay to put the name of the dealer on, would that be then considered what, like a sponsor? Like, is that how we would consider it okay to do on government property, because it would be like a sponsorship?
I try to avoid that wherever, I mean, I guess it's an issue you have to decide, but it looks as though we're advertising for this dealership, and once you open that door, it's hard to turn down anybody else, so it's a problem. I don't have a ready answer. This is being given to us, and so it's hard to say no. At the same time, I don't like the fact that this advertisement is on the charger.
But could it be considered, I mean, would that be something you would think about, that could be considered like advertising at the rec center or someplace where we advertise as a sponsorship for that piece, even though they donated them?
Well, we've got a process by which we approve that, and usually it's pretty restrictive. I think here the difference is that this is being donated, so in my mind, I can separate it out and make an argument that this is a different type of proposal, and therefore we would be agreeable to it, which is why I told Pat that if the council is acceptable with this, that it can probably be differentiated enough so that we're not opening the door too far to our property being used to advertise private business.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think if they donate a charging station and they put a advertising logo on it, I guess if we just limit it to charging stations, I guess if they want to donate something that's, either whether they get it by grant or pay for it, I mean, that's a tough question. I guess it deals with cars and it's related to a car dealership. I don't think many people are going to just go out there and donate charging stations to the city, I would imagine. I don't think there's many companies out there that say, yeah, I'll buy a couple of them for you and put them out. I mean, they'd probably put them in their own parking lot, I would imagine. But Paul?
I was going to say, if we put on that, we put charging station donated by whoever, fill in the blank, would that would just be an acknowledgement that they donated it, as opposed to advertising for Serpentini? I don't know, just a thought.
Well, I think these placards are already put on there. I don't think we have any input on what it says exactly.
Okay.
It just says Serpentini on it. But back to John Coyne's point, I think it's a narrow enough type issue that we can differentiate it, so we're not allowing anybody to come in and start advertising, because again, once we start, it's hard to close the door, and we get these kind of proposals all the time.
Jess?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess my question would be, how would this be any different than the brand of trucks that we park on our property? Do we tell everyone they should only buy Chevy trucks? No, that's just the trucks that we choose to use. So for all anybody knows, these donated Chargers are just the Chargers that we got from, what was it, Serpentini? So how would that, I guess, be any different? We're not saying you have to go to Serpentini to get your cars any more than we're saying if you want a nice work truck, you should get, I'm sorry, I don't know what brand trucks we get, but whatever it is, Chevy, Dodge, whatever. So what's the difference?
You want an answer?
If you got one.
Well, the answer is that in this instance, this entity is specifically advertising. For the trucks that we buy, we do it basically on the basis of the cheapest vehicle we can get for what we need. And it's a Ford, it's a Chevy, it's whatever we can get, and there's no intent to advertise. So the difference is the intent. with
The
respect to-
intention, okay, I can appreciate that. I guess I would have to see, like, what does this look like? Does it say, like, do all your shopping at Serpentini?
It's in the packet. It's from GM, so it doesn't say Serpentini. It uses some other dealership name. But no, I think it just says the name, like something Chevrolet.
Yeah, I mean,
And most people probably wouldn't even, not to interrupt.
pay
you,
attention to it. No,
Yeah, think
You're
it's a
fine.
brand of the.
Yeah,
Charger.
it says.
that's what I was gonna say. They probably think it's the brand.
Yeah, it says charging provided by
Oh,
so-and-so.
Oh, well, who cares? They donated it then. I mean, I would think, as Mr. Coyne and Mr. Huber said, it's a narrow enough little section of law that you can kind of just get in there under that exception. I don't
Well, to
think
use the
there's
legal terms,
anything
to use the legal terms,
nefarious about it.
it's narrowly tailored.
Yes, that was what I was going to say
That's the legal term.
when I go to
guess.
law school next month.
So, yeah, I think, that's correct, and I think this is so unique of an item that we could definitely, and we want to, I would assume, accept these donations of these stations because of the cost. I mean, if there's gonna be 2/3 of the vehicles, even if they're wrong and it's half, that's still a lot. And we're still gonna have to provide that service, to stay ahead as a community, to keep people, attractive to come here because we have that option of those who have charging vehicles, they can charge here when they come. Any other questions?
No, I just have a comment. Pat, I did, after you and I talked about it, I did have some preliminary conversation. I think we would definitely be open to something at the high school complex or rec center. There's so many people that are there, so many parking lots so depending on where we place these, the schools might help in the installation charge if it's on.
And maybe the
school
county will help in the county parking deck.
We can ask them.
That doesn't hurt. Any other questions?
Move
So
to-
do we have to approve anything, or what do you,
I don't think, basically, I just wanted to get your input, whether we should move forward with pursuing it. And there's no guarantee we'll be selected, but now we know we can move ahead. and
I think everybody's
try.
okay with it, correct? Everybody?
Yep.
Sounds like a good idea. So, I think
Okay.
we're good.
That's good, thank you.
All right, anything else to come before finance?
If not, I will make a motion at 6:24 PM to go into executive session to have a conference with the law director of the city concerning disputes involving the city that are subject to pending or imminent court action, and to include the mayor and the law director.
second?
Clerk, please call the roll.
Lamb,
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Pear.
Yes.
Hazelton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We'll be recessing into executive session, discussing the imminent litigation, coming back from executive session, taking no action of any item discussed in executive session, reconvening into finance, and then adjourning from finance, moving on to council. We are in recess.